Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about how I use LightKey and ProPresenter in conjunction to run all of our lighting for our church. So a couple videos ago, I talked about and gave an overview of LightKey and how I'm using it a little bit and some of the functionality within it and why I think it's a really simple, useful software for churches to use. It's really user-friendly, and I showed a little bit of how you set up some presets and some things like that as well. Well, today I want to talk about how I go in depth and use it in our services and do it in such a way that I have one person running this station and both my ProPresenter and my LightKey for our lighting are running in conjunction. Let me talk a little bit real quick about the setup that we have, the actual physical setup. So we have one of the new MacBook Pros. It's an M1 base model, and that's what we're running our ProPresenter on, but I also have LightKey loaded onto that same computer. Now, I talked about in a previous video as well how I was having some issues with the base model MacBook M1 Pros not being able to put out enough video sources. So someone in that video commented and suggested that I get a pluggable unit, and that unit is working great. It's sending all the feeds that I need to as far as my video is concerned, but it also has several other things on it as well that have been really useful. So it's got extra USB ports, it's got an output headphone jack on it so I can send my audio over to my sound console as well, and I'm using the USB ports on it to send to my USB DMX unit. So all with one cable, I'm sending into the pluggable, and then it's sending all of these things. So we are using an Entech DMX USB Pro 2. I'll have links in the description to all of this, the pluggable, the Entech, and we're also using a Chave DataStream 4-port DMX splitter. So out of our MacBook, we are going into the pluggable is sending into the Entech, and then I have a DMX cable that sends from the Entech back to the DMX splitter, and then that splits and sends out to our different lighting hangs that we have so that we can run everything that way. So it's all just running directly along that and is working great. So like I said, we have both ProPresenter and LightKey running on the same computer, and I'm going to tell you how I have built this and how I'm using it right now. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the computer, and we'll start here in LightKey. So you can see this is our lighting rig. So, you know, a little simple stage here that I've got put in. So we talked about how to build presets the last time, so I'm not going to go through all of that in this one, but I want to show you the ones that I do have in here thus far. I'm at home on my own personal computer, not on our church's computer, so I don't have all the same presets in there, but I will talk about the ones that I use regularly and ones that I'm continuously building. So as a part of our service, we have our orders that probably you've put together in Planning Center as well. So I'll show you my ProPresenter playlist real quick. So you can see we'll start with our walk-in, which is where we tend to have our service slides running, any announcement slides, that sort of thing, the type of thing you're used to. I also have a countdown video that starts. This is not the one that we normally use. I just went and grabbed one. About 3 minutes out from the beginning of our service, that countdown will automatically start. And then in this particular example here, we have a couple songs, our welcome and announcements that are in there, another song, and then the message comes in and all that. So, and then our walkout is there at the end. Those are pretty standard things that are going to be a part regardless of what the order is that I do. Those 5 pieces are pretty normal. So I have these 5 that are just always there. And then as far as songs go, the way I'm doing it is that each song I'm creating kind of a color base. So I look at whatever my main background slide is that I'm using for this particular song and the colors that go along with it. And I go in and I create a lighting scheme that kind of goes along with the colors that are here. So if you look at my preset 1 that I just created, you can see the different colors going along. It's got some of those oranges, some really light pinks in there, an orange there, and the blues that kind of emulate to go along with this. And it has a little bit of movement. So right now, for each song, I'll pull in whatever song I'm doing, I'll set up one preset, and that song, that preset, that lighting cue runs for the entire song. And then once we go to a new song, it switches its preset to now go to song 2. I've got all these built out. Now you could run your entire show, if you wanted to, from this window here. So if I know it's the walk-in, I can just click around to what I want to do. But you could see how that could be complicated as you build up more and more lighting cues and more of these presets. And if you've got this long list, making sure that you're tracking with what you're trying to find is not super helpful from this preset window. You want to go ahead and create these over there. Here's what I do. I leave the design window. This is where I design what each set looks like. And I come in here to live. And this is where I want to create my show for the day, as it were. This is where I'm going to set up my playlist for exactly what I'm doing for that service that day. So there's a couple of ways to add your pieces to live down here. One of the easiest ones is I'm just going to click on my preset right here, and I'm just going to drag it down to this live window, and then it automatically goes into the edit mode and it creates a block. And these blocks are what I'm going to use to set up my playlist down here basically. Now, the way I have it set up is I know I'm always using these 5. So these are always down here. So I'm gonna go ahead and drag these in, and you're gonna see that I am connecting these together. You see that red line form, and they butt up together and they are connecting together. Now let me explain why I'm doing that. Now let me click done here and you can see what's happening. So now when I can do the same thing and click them down here and they go through their different portions here. If I have these separated, let's go back to edit. If I have them separated, what I was running into is they begin to stack. So if I click blackout, it's now stacking on top, and they weren't working independent of each other. It was just trying to stack and not working how I wanted it to. So as I dug a little deeper, I realized if you build them coming together, what happens now is it's just running one of them at a time, and that's exactly what I want it to do. Now I've got my bass level in here. Well, now you're asking, how do I get my songs in? I could just drag those down there, but I don't want to do that way. I'm going to go back into my edit window, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to create a new button. And I'm going to call this Song 1. And I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to come up and just set it underneath and butt it up against. And let me go in and create some other new buttons here. And let's create a 4th one. Song 4. So now I've created all those buttons and click done. If I click on them, there's nothing loaded into them right now. I don't have any presets on those quite yet. In this particular example, I only have 3 songs, and then I'm repeating a short version of one at the end. So I really only need those 3. Well, now I can look at, if I change up the song, which you're changing week by week, I can select my preset that works with it. And all I have to do now is I take my preset and I drag it on top. And now it has set that preset in there. And let me go ahead and do number 2 and number 3. So now those presets are in there. So now as I click around in here, you see everything changing, going along with what I've set. There's still nothing on number 4, but we'll get to that in a moment. So all of these are loaded in here. And if I go and create another preset, let's go ahead and create a number 4. We're going to duplicate that one. And let's just change some color of something in here. Let's make this green. It's gonna be ugly along with everything else. It kind of looks like the Hulk right now, but that's okay. And we're going to update. So I've got those in there. Let me come back to my live window now. And I can just, okay, the first song that we're actually gonna do has this Hulk looking setup on it. So I'm just gonna click my preset 4. And I'm going to now drag that down on here, and it shows both of them in there, and I can just go in and remove that. And now song 1 is set up with our Hulk preset. I'm gonna switch that back because it's kind of ugly. And go back and remove that one. And that's what I do each week. These 4 stay pretty standard, or sorry, these 5, they'll change along with my series branding and things like that. So right now we're in a series that has a lot of blues in it, so I'll change based on that. But I'm just changing these baseline ones, the walk-in, the blackout, obviously blacks everything out, the announcements, the message, all that sort of stuff is only changing with the series. And I don't have to change it multiple times. I can just come in, I edit my preset up here, and because the preset is pulled in and loaded onto this button, if I change it here, it automatically changes here. So those are changing by series. My songs, I just over time, as I create a new song or I do a new song or anything like that, I'll create a preset based on the background that I'm making and just have different color sets. So I think on our computer right now, I probably have like 15 different color sets that tend to go along with the different pieces, and it's got movement and all of that sort of thing in it that I'm just doing on the one song. So that's how I'm doing it right now as far as building out my shows. And it's really simple to just click a preset, drag it on top of the songs. If I need to add a fifth song, I could just add another button, or I could just drag this down here and drop it in, and then I can come in here, go to rename right here and call this song 5. And then I can just leave that there. And now when I go to drag something else in on top of it, I've got song 5 already loaded, and I could do that. So all of these run just like that, can click on them and they do what they need to do. Now let's talk about how we connect it to ProPresenter. So we're gonna go over to ProPresenter, and the first thing we wanna do is we wanna make a MIDI connection between ProPresenter and LightKey. So I know you can't see this because it's not recording, but I'm gonna come up to ProPresenter and click on Settings, and I'm gonna go to Devices. So ProPresenter, Settings, Devices. And you get your settings window up here, and you can just click Devices here, and you can see that I have a MIDI connection made between LightKey. To do that, I'm going to click on this Add Device, and then I'm gonna click on MIDI. And when you click select device, because LightKey is open, LightKey would show up here, but because I'm already using that, it won't connect twice to it. So because I've already created it, it's not showing up in that window, but you would see LightKey in there. And then once you can name it whatever you want to, and then click back, and there you would have it. And you would just have to click connect. Now this would be the thing, if you don't see your lighting firing when you click on your different slides, which I'll get to in a moment, that means your connection is bad. I always try to have LightKey open first, and then I open ProPresenter, so ProPresenter knows that it's got that connection to make. It's happened in the past where I've tried to do it and I had ProPresenter already open and then open LightKey, that it didn't connect up. I've never had a problem when I have LightKey open first. And I haven't had a problem in a little while. Potentially ProPresenter has fixed that, or LightKey fixed something, so that is all working properly. But once that connection is made, you're all done here. Now I'm gonna go to my first slide. And the first thing I need to do is I need to set up my MIDI cues to leave ProPresenter and go where they need to go. So I'm gonna right click on my slide here, and I'm going to add an action, communication, and there's my connection, and then I'm gonna go MIDI note on. And it pops up this window. Now, within here, you've just got all of your MIDI notes. If you've ever worked with MIDI before, you kind of know more about this probably than I do. But if you haven't worked with this, there's only 3 things you need to worry about. You've got separate channels. LightKey will take up through 15 channels. So don't worry about number 16. LightKey will receive up to number 15. Within each channel, you're gonna send a note, and that note and that channel working together are what gives LightKey the information it needs to run the correct thing. So for my walk-in, for all of my baseline ones, I've gone ahead and just moved those down to 15 because they'll just never get touched, and they won't interact with anything else. I'll use songs from my earlier channels and stuff, but for all of my baseline stuff, we're doing the walk-in right now. So number 1 is gonna be channel 15. It's gonna be my first note, which is a C2, which is reading 0 here. And then you always have to set your intensity. It doesn't matter what you set your intensity to, it just has to be anything greater than 0. So I just come in and click 1, and that MIDI note is now ready to send. And if I click on this, it will fire that MIDI note. Now let's go set LightKey to receive that MIDI note. So down in my window, I'm going to right click on walk-in, and I'm gonna click on external control and add trigger. So now LightKey is waiting for an input. It knows it's gonna get an input from someplace. So I'm gonna go back to ProPresenter, and I'm just gonna click on this first slide. And you see that it has received and now it's good to go. So now, if I click on this first slide again, you now see that walkout is running. Let's go do another one. So on this countdown video, I want all of the lights to black out. So I'm gonna right click, and we are going to add action, communication, LightKey MIDI, MIDI note on. We're gonna come down to 15 again, and I'm gonna choose the C sharp. I'm gonna choose number 1 here, and that's gonna be the next note, and I'm gonna set my intensity here. So now the C sharp note is going to send my cue to be my blackout. So I'm gonna come back over, I'm gonna right click on blackout and external control, add trigger, and click on that slide, and now you see it has received 15 C2. This has a song along with it, so we're gonna go ahead and stop this. So now if I click on this one here, here's something that I was about to get to, and you see it happening now. When I click on this slide, it is constantly firing that note, and you see that this keeps turning on and off. Well, I have this set with a 10-second countdown for my looping stuff, so whenever it got back here, it would reset this to be turning off because it's toggling. I want to fix all of that. So I'm going to go right click, external control, and I'm going to click on my routing up here, and it brings up this window. And within this window, once we set our other data points, it'll recognize them all in here, and I could select them all. But right now, those are the 2 we have. I'm going to come down to behavior, and I'm going to change that to activate. And then I'm going to change all of these every single time. I'm going to set them to activate, not to toggle. So that way, when it hits that note, so I'm going to click on blackout, and you see everything turn off. We're going to hit pause on that so the music doesn't start. So now if I hit back on this, you see all of the lights turn on and start doing their thing. If I click on it again, it's just reactivating. It's not toggling back and forth between on and off. It's just activating, and that's fine. It's just gonna stay on until I go to my next cue. And then we're back into blackout. So once all of those are input and put on, and I've created all of those cues, now it's just a matter of my ProPresenter person just following along the playlist. So on each of the song, I will put my MIDI cue on this first one, and then that just fires, and that will play along through the entire song. So that lighting cue will run along the entire song. So let's go in and do this one. Song number 1, communication, LightKey MIDI note on. And I'm gonna choose channel 1, and I'm gonna choose note number 1, and I'm gonna choose intensity 1. And then let's go to song 1, external control, add trigger. Click on back in here, and now it's added. And now I'm gonna right click again, go back to external control, and make sure that I set my behavior to activate. So now you can see, let's go back to the walk-in. So there's our walk-in running. You can see those lights turning up there. And if I move this out of the way a little bit, you can see we are selected on walk-in. Well, now let's go down to our next scene, our next piece in the playlist, and go, and now you see it's changed to blackout. All of the lights have stopped there. And now let's go down into He Lives and run, and you see now song number 1 is running. And I can set those same MIDI cues on the rest of these, and it'll run. And because I have song number 1 playing again, that MIDI cue is already on there because it's a part of the template now for this song. So what I'll generally do actually is I use macros for this within ProPresenter because I'm only needing to run the 1 light cue for each song. So I'll set a macro that has it changes my stage setup, it changes the MIDI note and all that. So I've just created song 1, song 2, song 3, song 4, song 5 that have all those pieces on macros. So say I'm actually doing Echo as my first song, I can just drag that macro over and it'll fire here because that's the first song that we're doing. And song 2, I'll drag on to the next one and so forth, and using those macros to do that. And that's how I'm building my playlist and my shows all in here, and it's all running from here. So then I've got one person that is running ProPresenter, and ProPresenter is firing LightKey. So as long as my person hits this first slide, which they should be all the time, as long as they hit this first slide, it's sending the proper notes, it's changing what needs to be changed throughout. So I have our ProPresenter on the main laptop monitor, and then on a side screen, another monitor I have attached, I have LightKey so they can see and make sure that things are running properly. And if there are any issues, they can come over and just click on stuff if they need to. But everything, as long as I set it up properly here, allows one person to run both all of our screens and our computer graphics, as well as running our lighting system, and everything is working in conjunction together. If you really wanted to get jumpy and you're running tracks, you could have your tracks rig sending MIDI notes to ProPresenter to fire all of the slides and all of the graphics there in time properly. And then ProPresenter is sending a MIDI note to LightKey, and it could all just be one certified thing that you click play on your tracks and it just all runs. I don't like that. I don't like having that much lack of control on it. And I like having a person in place and give somebody an opportunity to serve in this role. But this allows me to have those working together and not have to find a separate lighting person and all that, because I know a lot of us are having trouble finding people in this time to do a lot of things that we still need to do. So this is a great way to join these two systems together. It's all on one computer. LightKey is not super heavy on your processor at all. I know ProPresenter is, but LightKey is not, and they run together great. I haven't had any crashing issues. I haven't had anything like that happen in the several months that I've been doing things this way now. I hope that's helpful in some way. So I'm just building presets over here, and then I have this live show. It almost always just looks exactly like this. And then all I have to do is drag my color presets on, and then I can go delete the other one that I'm not using out of there. And now my lighting is setting and changing along with that, and it's just creating new presets. I can go in and have fun creating a bunch of different color sets and using the tools that are all in there. And then I'm just dragging them in and dropping them in. So it takes a little bit of work to set up on the front end, but then once it's set up, it's pretty easy to now link everything together, be meticulous about how you're putting your cues in, make sure that those are all set properly. That's why I like the macros. If you want to get more in depth and have your lights change with the bridge and the verse and all that, you can do that. It'll take more time, and it's something I've thought about doing as well to give some more life to the lighting rather than just one cue running the whole time. But this is working great, and I don't need to get fancy quite yet. As I add more lights maybe and some other things, maybe I'll change that up. But this is working great for me this way, and has been awesome for our church and what we're doing. And it's a really simple system, and I can let another operator come in and create some of these presets if they want to, and play around and learn some lighting and things like that if they'd like to, in a really simple, user-friendly manner. So I hope that was helpful to you. If you've got any questions about any of this, I know I talked really fast just now to get through this, but if you got any questions, drop them down in the comments below. I've got links to the pieces that I've talked about in the description below. I'm not fancy enough to have affiliate links, so that's just hey, I want to provide you with a quick way to go and get the things that I was talking about. So I hope that you guys get to use this tool. It's really great. I really love it. You guys have a great day. Do all the things that YouTube tells you to do. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.